brief comments on the report? Councillor Ahmed.
Not on the agenda, but in relation to the Commissioner, just so we're aware, I don't think it's anything to celebrate at the moment, because actually the Commissioner's appointment is actually a final worst-case scenario, and that actually says more about the capacity. I think that we have to recognise that actually we have to wait for another Ofsted inspection before concluding that the service is at the state that it should be. The Commissioner's appointment, as it has been around the country, is actually a worst-case scenario, and it shows that everything else within the local council wasn't capable of meeting the needs of the young people in there. So that is, although I think the work of the staff has ensured that hasn't taken place until a subsequent Section 8 or another inspection is confirmed, it just shows the amount of work that is still required to make sure that children's services are at the right level that it should be.
Councillor Swift.
Yeah, we fully appreciate that. We knew what state we were in, but now we've got to appreciate that out of 16 authorities that were judged inadequate over the last year, 6 went into trust, 7 had to have a partner coming in to assist them. Only 2, which includes Wakefield and Bromley, have actually been classed as being able to carry on with their children's services. I'm not saying that we're brilliant. We aren't brilliant, but we've done the work, we're going to do the work, we know what we have to do, and we will do it. And I think to undermine the work that's been done already in the way that you have done is not fair.
Mr Mayor, can I first of all extend my own thanks to Margaret and all the other people responsible for reaching the present situation in regard to children's services. My own question is about the other side of Margaret's portfolio, the education side, and along with the Commissioner's report, I wouldn't claim it's got the same importance, but there was another document that came out too late for that report, and that was the very, very belated publication by the Education Funding Agency of their final report following their 2016 visit to the Wakefield City Academies Trust. And pleasant reading it does not make. In particular, and I hark back to the resolution of this council just about 12 months ago, in particular their report makes it clear that the Wakefield City Academy Trust never had the power to make transfers of reserves and other money between the schools that it operated into their own resources or between the schools. They did not have that power. The EFA report is explicit. Quite why? A report that refers specifically to October 2016 report, and as they say themselves, published November 2018. But if we'd had this report at the time that we had our discussions, our case would have been enormously stronger. The report makes it clear they did not have the power to take money. The EFA were recommending that they did the necessary things, but in fact they never did, and in any event, the money that was moved in Hemsworth, at Heathview, at Wakefield City Academy itself, all occurred before that date, and explains very, very clearly why, certainly in the case of the Wakefield City Academy, what we had were carefully structured and formal loan agreements with formal repayments. Now, 12 months ago, this council formally resolved to demand from the DFE that they ensure full restitution to those schools for the benefit of those children of the money that had been taken away. Now, not surprisingly, the DFE have done nothing apart from make carefully worded, and it's interesting to look at that careful wording in the light of the EFA's report, carefully worded and rather evasive statements about it. What I'm now asking is that within the terms of our resolution of 12 months ago, that we do actually renew our efforts on behalf of the children of those schools to actually obtain the full restitution that we sought this time last year, and now not just with very, very strong moral authority, but also very, very strong evidence from the government's own people about the way in which that was not an appropriation but was very definitely a misappropriation at that time. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Isherwood.
Thank you. Yes, I agree with you, Kevin. We had a discussion last year about this, and I agree with you about the money and the children suffering because of what happened at that time. I'm quite prepared to take this away and look at how we can move it on again.
Along with all the other things that Margaret's got currently on her plate, can I thank her for that response, Mr Mayor?
Thank you. Are there any other brief comments or questions? If not, thank you, Councillor Mrs Isherwood. Next is the portfolio holder for corporate services, Councillor Shaw. Would you please introduce your report to Council?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll be brief. If we look on agenda page 33, employment and skills outcomes achieved. This is important because the procurement team are now looking at not just value for money, but value right across the system. They're looking at apprenticeships, employment and skills. And as you can see, although it's in its infancy, it's already starting to work. We will certainly be pushing further and further on these sort of things, and we'll certainly bring regular reports back on this. With that, I move my report.
Are there any questions or brief comments on Councillor Shaw's report? Councillor Box.
I'll use this microphone just to say on the procurement strategy, it's actually based on the model that Preston Council adopted some time ago. And what it tries to do is to make sure that we get added social value. And that has to be at the heart of the procurement strategy. And what we said at Cabinet, Mr Mayor, when it went through Cabinet, is that we need a further report, I think, was it in a year's time we said, Les? In a year's time, to see what impact it has, because part of this has got to be, and it links to the item on the agenda later, it's got to link far more than before to local business. And Preston have found that by adopting that strategy, they're spending far more of their money on local firms, and that's helped the local economy. And in fact, I think it was Preston that was named the most improved city this year. I think we were 5th or 6th, but Preston was at the top of the tree in terms of adding social value, so we're going to try and do that.
Are there any other questions or brief comments on Councillor Shaw's report? Councillor Pickin.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to say, Les, thanks for identifying our lovely ventures that we've got out of our capital fund, and they're a great success all over our ward, and I hope others will try and put some in their ward as well. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or brief comments on Councillor Shaw's report? Thank you, Councillor Shaw. Moving on to the portfolio holder for culture, leisure and sport. Councillor Miss Spate, would you please introduce your report to Council?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to start by saying well done to our fantastic gymnasts at Thorns Park, and in particular Skylar, Freya, Maddie and Elliot, who have all been medal winners in the past few months. But also well done to all the young people across our district who participate in sport and achieve. Secondly, I'd like to let you know that all our library staff have now undergone training to support citizens with universal credit applications. We're also offering free computer, Wi-Fi and internet access for people on low incomes who need support and help in trying to signpost them to the appropriate support that they need. And finally, on a Christmas note, I'm delighted to report that despite the very poor weather, over 1,300 people attended our first Santa event at Pontefract Castle and had a fabulous time, as I hope everyone in this chamber does over the holiday period. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Are there any questions or brief comments on Councillor Miss Spate's report? Thank you, Councillor Miss Spate. Councillor Cummins.
Hello, I'm small, Mr Mayor, but I was there with my hand up. I just want to, agenda page 37, again commend the libraries for their Food for Fines initiative. You do mention that it was the Wakefield libraries. I'm presuming it was across the district. It was the district libraries, and I really would like to know from my food aid network just how much was collected, if you can let me know.
Thank you, Councillor Miss Spade. The next report is the portfolio holder for Communities and Environment. Councillor Mrs Cummins, would you please introduce your report to Council?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, just a couple of things I'd like to mention. First of all, absolutely fabulous that Philip, or Pip as he's known, has done 51 years with this authority. So some people do have staying power. And when we met Pip, Martin and myself, we were absolutely thrilled with some of the stories that he had to tell us around how this council has changed over those 51 years. And it's no immediate, he's not going to immediately retire. He's going to continue. Just to update everybody on the 16 days of action, first of all, I want to thank those people that actually came bagpacking or did anything towards the 16 days of action. We have managed to raise £1,844 for the refuge, and a skip hire company, KMR, donated £400 worth of toys. So it's really going to make those families in the refuge quite a comfortable Christmas this year. I just want to mention, if you all have a tree at home that's a living, growing tree, please don't forget to recycle it after Christmas in the correct way, and that's to take it down to the waste recycling centre where we can actually get it composted. And finally, I just want to say, please think about those people, those volunteers who are going to be working over Christmas, and I think Jackie and I and Councillor Stansby will be working on Christmas Day, helping to feed those people who are less fortunate than us. And with that, apart from thanking all the staff in Communities and Environment for all their help and support over the last 12 months, I move my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions or brief comments on the portfolio holder's report? Thank you, Councillor Mrs Cummins. The final Cabinet Members' report is that of the portfolio holder for Transport and Highways. Councillor Morley, would you please introduce your report to Council?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, I just want to pay a couple of items in my report, one that's not in my report. On page 52, school gate parking, I think everybody in this room has problems in their ward with school parking at some point or another. My ward's no exception. So it's good to see the school gate parking and the road safety team out there trying different ways, encouraging parents. Just when you're dropping your kids off, maybe 5 minutes, but what's the consequence of stopping that 5 minutes? And it's good to see the kids getting involved as well, reminding parents. So I think that's a very powerful message when it comes from the kids about where they're parking. So I think that's a great initiative that they've been doing. Mr Mayor, over the last few months, many members have raised with me the problems of bus services around the district. And it's something that I get in my email tray quite a lot. I'm hoping to organise a seminar with officers from the Combined Authority and also from the bus operators to come in so members can come, speak to them and get a better understanding of what's happening out there. I'm also trying to organise one as well with the train companies as well. Once again, we know there's absolute chaos with Northern Rail. I mean, they've even taken the rail out of the name now, it's just Northern. So, obviously, I'm trying to organise that for in the new year as well. And then finally, Mr Mayor, at the back of my report, you see once again we've taken part in the NHT Satisfaction Survey. It's an independent report that we take part in each year. There's different ways we speak to people living in the district, different other agencies, Mr Mayor, and once again we are being rated as a good value for money Highways Authority. So we wanted to pay tribute to all the staff that we have in Highways, and especially this time of year, as alluded to, when the people are out there in the snow ploughs on a night. We've had a mild winter so far, but I'm sure we'll have a bit of summer coming down in the new year. So I just want to pay tribute to all the staff in Highway for the hard work they do, Mr Mayor. With that, I wish you all a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'll move my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions or brief comments on Councillor Morley's report? Councillor Masterman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In the past, we've requested a crossing for Church Street near to Holy Trinity School. Unfortunately, a few weeks ago, a little girl was knocked down by a cyclist. She had really bad facial injuries, and I'm sure if it had been a car, she could have very well been killed. I'd just like to know that if you could intervene to get this request looked at again, please, Councillor Morley. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Masterman, I know it's something you've raised quite a few times, safety outside schools and the work that you've done down there. I think it would be beneficial, Councillor Masterman, if we could organise a meeting in the new year with all yourself, ward members in that area, to look at ways if we can put a crossing in and funding streams for that. I'm quite happy to organise that, Councillor Masterman. Thank you.
Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Morley, as you know, KK Roundabout had a lot of regeneration lately. It's looking absolutely fantastic since the money's been put into it. And we did witness a number of near misses whilst we were there, between a bus and a car. And since that visit, there's actually been a crash at that exact spot. I appreciate that the council are monitoring it. I'm wondering if you would be able to give me an update on that since we've been. Thank you.
Yes, Michael, thank you for that. And it was a pleasure to come out and meet you down there, and thank you for asking. Yes, when any new roundabout or any new highway schemes put in, we have a 12-month safety audit. You visit in the first 3 months, 6 months, so on, until you get to the end. It had already been identified by the independent audit as a suggestion of some new road markings put in at the junction you looked at. So Highways are taking that back, and it's more likely we will be taking on board that and sorting that junction out. But I do thank you for raising that awareness that I think most of us have experienced. Thank you.
Councillor Harvey.
Councillor Morley, I have one more to add to your list. In West Breton Junior and Infant School, outside the island, it is very hazardous. Last June, the enforcement officer wanted to say that he has seen somewhere very bad regarding to road safety, but he has never seen something so bad. But since we still haven't got any resolution, and we got parents, parish council, all the head teachers very, very agitated about the situation. I got phone calls at 11:30 at night. So I'm just wondering whether, Councillor Morley, you can also come with the officers to examine or investigate the issue, and we need a quick solution there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Yes, I will speak to officers and find out the history of what's happened down there and find out what we can do, and I will obviously come out and speak to yourself and the school.
Councillor Tennant-King.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Matthew, can you remember you came to Charleston not long back and you met with me, Councillor Taylor, and members of the Charleston Parish Council, and we did that survey on the green, read the traffic, and they were going to putting that little mini roundabout in. They did the traffic survey, I think, in October, and we were promised that we'd hear back something by late November, and we still haven't heard anything. Do you think you could push that along for us, please?
Yes, I do apologise, Councillor Tennant-King, for that. We have had many surveys being done, and we have got a little bit of backlog, so we are running some weeks behind, but I will get something to you early in the new year.
No further comments or questions? Thank you, Councillor Morley, and that concludes the Cabinet members' reports. Agenda item 9 is to provide Council with an overview of the factors currently impacting on the future of Wakefield City and town centres. Is the report moved?
Yeah, move the report, Mr Mayor, on the brief. I'm sure you've all got a copy of the Grimsey Review. Have you? Yeah, I thought so. Anyway, the Grimsey Review makes the point that it's time to reshape our town centres. And the report today seeks to start the debate rather than try and conclude it. And can I make this point as well? It's not simply about Wakefield city centre. It's about all our towns right across the district. And one of the issues we face is because we are a diverse district geographically. We're all different. So we've got to try and make sure that the solutions we come up with are applicable for each of our distinct communities. And just one or two figures from the Grimsby Review. Grimsby makes the point that in a few years' time, we'll have 100,000 shops more than we need. Huge amount. So it's a clear indication that the number of shops that we've seen close locally will only increase. It's also saying that internet sales, which are at the moment 18%, will increase to 30% in about 10 years' time. That again will have a huge impact on all our high streets. What's our role? Well, again, the report makes clear that local government of itself cannot solve what's a national problem. That our role is to try and bring people together. So there are two recommendations I'd like to make today, Mr. Mayor. The first is that we arrange a high street summit where we bring together retailers, property developers, and any other interested parties, including elected members. And secondly, that we'll make a bid to the recently announced Future High Streets Fund, which is in total £675 million. So those are the two specific recommendations. And I say, hopefully, if we get this right and do it in the right way, involving the most people, we can actually start to make a difference. Thank you.
Is the report seconded? Are there any questions in relation to the report? Councillor Harvey.
Thank you for the report. I think that Wakefield Town Centre and also some other centre of this region is the heart and soul of our community, so it does need work on. So, but however, this report, I wonder that as a whole, it would appear to me that there is some financial implications, but on page 66, it has explicitly say that there's no commitment from the council at this stage. I wonder whether that should be looked into. The other issue is about the last mile logistics. So it seems to contradict the idea of us revitalize the city centre, the high street, with higher paid job, because in this district we already have a more than above average warehouse occupancy already. So the high skill job does not mean that we should create a logistics warehouse, at the end of the high street. The other thing is about enhancement of the digital capacity itself. So what are they and how are they going to be benefit from for the community and how they will be delivered? My other point is the economic growth itself. It talk about the engagement, but what exactly the role of the economic growth department in this motion, I'm not too clear about. Finally, we have a binary option. One of them is do nothing, and I can tell this council do nothing is not an option. Thank you.
I'm aware of that. That's why I said we should have a high street summit and involve everybody. We can't solve it today, is the truth. Nor can we commit money today because we don't know what the cost might be that's involved. I say we are going to bid to the government's new fund. So this is the start of a process. We can't wave a magic wand. We can't. But I think we are showing leadership by making sure that conference takes place.
Thank you. Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'm going to turn things around, if I may, just make a comment and then I'll have a question. I think the first thing that we have to recognise is the efforts of our team in trying to actually grow our city centres. And it's difficult in the times that people have had through austerity and the spending power in terms of using the shops. And of course the different methods of the buying power these days. And dare I mention Brexit at this particular time, because I'm sure some of the commodities, listen to the news folks, you hear it every day, some of the commodities that are coming into this country via the free trade movement in Europe, guess what? They're coming through Amazon and they're coming through all the rest of these places where the shopping is now taking place. But I won't go into that anymore because I'm sure we're all hearing the news every day. My point about this is I very much welcome this report, and our local councillors representing Wakefield City, we've had a conversation this week with an officer, and it will continue into the new year, about our involvement in terms of our city centre in Wakefield. I'm sure it will happen again across the district, because this is a district-wide initiative, as the leader has said. I do hope we're successful in the funding, because I think we do need something to kick-start it. But what I would like to ask the leader in actually welcoming very much this report and the involvement of elected members is that I, and a lot of us around here, seeing what's happened within our city centres, would like to see somewhere within the proposals for the future, and I'm sure it'll be there in the report, that there is a standard within our district, that we want people to actually apply a standard across our district. And we don't want here today and gone tomorrow, because that has happened over the years through austerity as well. And I think the quality of what we can provide with a new future, hopefully, will make people want to come back to shop in our city centres, and will want to be proud of attracting business into our city centres. So I would hope, Leader, that the question I have is, will there be a standard that's set in here that we can actually be proud of again, more prouder than we are at the future, and attract more people in?
I think we would all welcome that, Mr. Mayor. The problem is that if you look at that review, it's not saying that we can grow the retail industry. What it's saying basically is that people go into towns and cities now for different things other than retail. That is the real challenge. So how can we as an authority make sure that the retail that remains is good quality, certain standards, and prospers? And then make sure that the other reasons that people go into towns and cities is well catered for as well. And that is the truth. People don't come into towns and cities as much as they used to do to buy things.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Councillor Ahmed.
I think I'm welcoming this report as an introduction to the issue itself, and obviously having actually read the Grimsby review this time. So I think it's important that we do recognise that internet sales will probably go beyond 30% actually, especially with certain generations. And the city centre, as we see across the whole of the district, includes Castleford and Pontefract as well, have declined as a result of that. And it's not just Wakefield, but it's important that we look forward to this report as well and look at what the consequence is going to be looking at the future. And I think to save retail, or all retailers that we were probably used to, like Woolworths and MFI, have gone. They're not going to come back. And we do look at certain things in Wakefield and with nostalgia, but certain habits that have changed are not going to change back. So I think it's important that we look at the future of high streets and recognise that some of the things that we're currently seeing will not exist in the next 10 years. So I welcome this report, and I think it's important that we keep it on the agenda as well, especially for the whole district.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? No? All in favour of the recommendation? Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? That is carried. Agenda item 10 is to deal with any questions made by members. No questions have been submitted. The final agenda item is to deal with any motions proposed by members. No motions have been received. That was the last item on the agenda. Thank you, colleagues, for your attendance. The next council meeting is on the 30th of January 2019. I now declare the council meeting closed.